Now I hit it good enough. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, lean in. So, Justin Annis here, CrossFit Growl with James Epps. Some of us know him as Jamie.
Hi.
So, I asked Jamie to come in here and talk to us about what he thinks, if he could go back and say, hey, Jamie, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, what are the top 3 to 5 things that you would tell you about fitness, especially in the way that we do it now? Like, what are the most important things that he wishes that he would have known starting his... Well, Jamie, why don't you just talk about your fitness life? And first, let me just say, a little bio on Jamie is, Jamie was a couple of base hits, maybe a double or two away from going to pro baseball. So, played at Augusta College. Augusta College.
First graduating class of Augusta State University.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they got
And
that
your background was, or your major was?
I was marketing bachelor's. I got a master's in special education, and then instructional technology specialist and educational leadership specialist.
Got it.
So I'm very
Got a lot. He's got a lot of specialists.
I'm an Oxford cleric.
All right. So, so you've had athletic success. You played varsity sports in middle school and high school, and then in college baseball.
Right.
Football too.
Football too.
And at West Side.
The West Side. Yeah. I was a running back. Hard to believe, as much as I despise running, but yeah, I was a running back in high school. So, but yeah, I come from an athletic background. After college, I kind of fell off the proverbial fitness wagon, as a lot of people do.
I know that drill.
And I got up to about 270 pounds at my heaviest. And
270.
270.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people, like, small people. If you
That's
stack
about
them
6
on top
Dallases.
right. If you stack small people on top of each other, that's what I look like. So, and then at about 33, I got tired of being fat and slovenly, and decided I was going to get back into fitness, and started going to the Y a few times a week and doing some of the machines and that type of thing. And 3 weeks became a habit. And next thing you know, I was going 5 days a week, and go every morning at 5 before I went to work. And I did that for about 6 years. Really. And at 39, I met Tiffany Tooley, Leister, whatever. Yeah, Tiffany.
Tiffany.
We all know Tiffany. And she and Bishop were opening CrossFit 706 at the old location, and they invited me to come. And I had coached Bishop in high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep, I was his football coach and baseball coach. So,
at Greenbrier.
At Greenbrier.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so they kind of shamed me into coming to try a workout for the first time. And about October of, I guess that was 2013 or 14, I went for the first time and tried it and vomited.
Yeah.
It was a...
That's the thing.
Yeah, I was a pretty in shape guy, but putting a barbell and a run in together about destroyed me for a little while. So I threw up and said, I'll be back tomorrow. And that was it for how I got into CrossFit. But, that was a realization that the things I had done in the past weren't necessarily the best things for me to get in the kind of shape that I was used to being in.
Sure.
Yeah. So that got me hooked, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and here I am, just finished 18-1 and want to die.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that means you did it right.
Right.
So, there's a couple of things. My story is almost an overlay of yours.
Yeah.
Even to the point where we started at the same time, and I threw up my first couple of times. I woke up at 262 pounds one day and went, wait, this is not me.
Right.
So signed up for a Spartan race, went and did it. I did the 5 a.m. thing. I didn't do it for 6 years,
Right.
but I did the fitness thing as I thought it men at the time.
Right. The Arnold Schwarzenegger way.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm gonna do a little cardio. I'm gonna do some lifting, and then I'm gonna go do a Spartan race.
Right.
And so there's a difference in what everybody looks like on Men's Fitness or women's bodybuilding.com stuff, because those people, they look amazing,
Right.
but the reality is that they only look that way for a short period of time because it's not sustainable.
Right.
And there's something that you had said to me recently. In fact, I would love to do an entire program, like weekly program if I could, on like the age and the wisdom of the athlete, that it's a marathon for time.
Right.
It's like
It is.
You started with your backstory. We don't all look like Men's Fitness and women's bikini models all the time.
Right.
But what is it about? So let's dive into the top 3 things. I'm going to write them up here and hope that it actually. Oh, it's going to go backwards, isn't it? If I write it, it's going to go backwards.
Write it
Y'all can
backwards.
read it backwards.
Write it backwards.
I'll write it backwards.
We'll use a
So,
mirror.
I wrote the things down because I thought they were so important that I didn't want to forget them, and I certainly didn't want us to forget them.
Right. It's okay.
Cheer?
Hi.
Cheer?
No.
No? Okay.
When you said you were talking to someone, I thought on the phone.
Don't
No,
talk to
she's
Jane.
talking
We're
to
doing a
me.
podcast right now.
Say
Come
hi.
on in. Hey, say hi. This is my kindergarten friend, Tiffany Nola,
Hi.
and she's been doing this for a while. I'll bring you in another time on
On another
podcast.
Awesome. Have fun.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Bye, Tiffany.
All right, so first things first, patience. It is, without a doubt, the most important aspect of your journey through CrossFit. If this is the endeavor that you're going to go on, and those of y'all that are watching this are obviously into fitness and are wanting to either up your fitness game, become more fit, more metabolically able to do some of these workouts. But the old adage, Rome wasn't built in a day.
By Rome, he's talking about his body right now. I don't know if you noticed, but he looks pretty good for 43.
Yeah. But it's patience. When I got into CrossFit that first time, and I was telling the story about me throwing up, like I was very impatient to be at the level that I saw some of the other athletes at. And a lot of people that I see that come into the gym for the first time, for the first 6 weeks, for the first year that they're in, they are impatient with the process. The process is almost as important as the results, because when we are learning this sport, and CrossFit is a sport just like any other thing, there is nobody, with the exception of maybe Tiger Woods, that picked up a set of golf clubs for the first time and was good. Like those of us that played baseball, you start off in T-ball, you go to coach pitch, you go to minor leagues where the kids are finally throwing, and you get hit every third time at the bat. The games last 6 hours, but it's a process, and CrossFit is no different. You're not going to come in the first day and get ring muscle ups and double unders. It's just
How
not.
long did it take you to get a muscle up?
It took me about 4 months to get a muscle up, but it took me a full year and a month to be able to string 30 double unders together. One whole year.
Oh, you were notoriously terrible at double unders.
I was the worst double under person in the history of CrossFit. Like it was something that plagued me and made me want to give up altogether. Like, because everybody, and it doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are coming in or how bad of an athlete you are coming in.
As he motions in my direction.
Like everyone has a chink in their armor. Like, and that is a part of what makes this such a great community sport. Like, because when Justin and I and David went to Granite Games, which was a big deal for us three, we were very blessed to be able to make that trip and see where we were against people that are in our age group,
And grateful to everybody who's listening to this who helped make that a possibility. And that means everybody who bought a t-shirt, to
Right.
everybody who bought a raffle ticket, to everybody who trains with us,
right,
and everybody that came before us. I mean, if we think about it, we kind of owe it to Bishop
Right.
and Tiffany.
right.
And there's a long list of people that helped us along the way get to where we were.
Absolutely.
So, talking about the community aspect, sorry, I didn't
Right.
mean to derail it. Go
I had
continue.
finished that thought. Like,
Okay.
but patience. Like, you're going to struggle on a movement, 10 movements. You're going to struggle to get handstand push-ups. You're going to struggle once you get handstand push-ups to get a strict handstand push-up. You're going to struggle to get a pull-up, and then struggle to get a chest to bar, and then a bar muscle up. Like, but the progression is what's important. How you get there. And that gets me to my next point, which is quality of movement.
That's what I wrote down.
Yep.
This is huge. Real fast. What I wrote up here, I just put a different word on it. The process is almost as important as the product. Meaning, how we get from being able to do 30 burpees at the same, continuous pace, to how we get to 30 burpees at a faster time, but by doing it the right way is almost more important than
Being able to do it.
being able to do it fast.
Right. And that to me, I had a couple of guys that really shaped my thought on that. Like Bobby Lawrence, who is at CrossFit Stars and Bars. Like he is a huge proponent of quality of movement. Like, if you get the quality of movement, the depth of your wall balls, the swing on your kips, the dip drive on your clean and jerks, whatever it is, like the quality of movement helps you to progress in a way that's going to improve your fitness. Like, if you're doing half reps, like if you're not getting full depth on your wall balls or on your thrusters, like while you're still getting a component of fitness, you're not getting what the design movement was meant to do for your functional fitness.
Right.
Which is what CrossFit's all about. Like, is functionally fit people being able to, if you needed to, pick up deadlift a car off of your child, or Justin always says, like, when we went to the Granite Games and people were walking on the plane that were wearing CrossFit stuff, he was like, look, there's somebody that's hard to kill. But that is what CrossFit is. It's a functional fitness to be able to do something that an average Joe at 43 or 37 isn't able to do, because we're able to do these things correctly, and quality of movement is there, and we're able to do what it was designed to do when the people that, Greg Glassman and those, people that...
Well, I love our maximum dosage's wall currently says, and they've changed it a few times over the years, I think, the painting, but it says, functionally fit people are harder to kill and more useful in general.
Right.
So it's like, hey, when you think of a useful person, and when you think of somebody who's able to do things, they're both resourceful, but their bodies are able to do stuff. They do, the word virtuosity comes up.
Absolutely.
Being able to do common things uncommonly well.
Right.
So we're talking about toe to bar, and we're talking about knee raises or sit-ups or push-ups. Like the first CrossFit Games doesn't look anything like the new CrossFit Games.
Right.
And the athletes aren't anywhere close to the same level of stuff, but because they continue to push the envelope of what the human body is capable of. However, the way they get there is a lot of interval training. You talked about Bobby Lawrence, and two other people come to mind when talking about quality of movement, and that is Joe Baker. Joe Baker is you talk about a guy, Joe, I hope that you listen to this. I say this all the time. Talk about like a guy who doesn't look like much, you walk in and think, I'm gonna whip that guy, and then he mops the floor with everybody, because it's not because he's the strongest athlete, or because he's the fastest athlete, but I think that he does everything incredibly efficiently and cleanly.
Right.
And that's where he gets you. Where somebody who's really a hard-nosed athlete might push the needle.
Right.
He'll stay there just in the kind of I'll give him props, and a Froning-like
Right.
mentality, which is I'm gonna do everything. I picture the snatching because I remember there's times where I just saw him working with incredibly lightweight, and he was just working on his form and technique back at the old gym.
Yep.
And
I've
it's
seen
something
it
that he
1,000
said. I said, hey, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just doing interval training, really working on my technique to make sure I'm symmetrical, making sure that I'm strengthening my weak side, spending time doing the common thing uncommonly well.
Right.
Which is in huge support of what you said. Quality movement is as important as any actual movement that you can do.
Right.
Another person is our very own Carlos.
Right.
Carlos Hernandez, while we were working out, he was doing squats in the corner, and he was doing incredibly perfect tempo front squats. I mean, incredibly perfect for his foot placement, for his body, for all of his levers.
Right.
He was really
Focusing on that.
focusing on it. He'd rather do 185 pounds perfectly 5 times
Than 275 once.
275 once, just ugly.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
So to recap, patience is as important as any actual movement, meaning the process of getting from where you are to where you want to be in this specific arena of fitness is as important, if not more important, than the result, than the product.
Than the
So the
product.
process is more important than the product here with what we're doing. And then quality of movement is as important as any ability to do any other movement.
To do
Doing
any-
a correct push-up,
Ring muscle up.
right,
Right.
rowing properly is as important as being able to do a sub 130 500.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I wrote these things down. Number 3, you said focus. This is gonna be backwards, so I'm just gonna do a symbol. This is how much you should focus on the clock. Tell me what you meant by that.
All right. So, in our sport, you have an option of either competing against a person that you're training with. You have an option of competing against yourself, and you have an option of competing against the clock. In my opinion, the competing against the clock is the least important thing, because what we try to do is push our boundaries. Because in the beginning, I looked at the whiteboard and I compared myself to Joe Baker. I compared myself to Tony Rivera. I compared myself to Troy Williamson. I compared myself to people that were better than me, that had been doing fitness longer, were younger, were
NFL players?
NFL players, right. So I was comparing myself to them, all right? Instead of focusing inwardly on what are my weaknesses, what are the things that I need to get better in this workout. Because in a workout, like I told you, that you're gonna have chinks in your armor. Say for instance, if it's thrusters and pull-ups, or thrusters and assault bite, what are the things that I need to get out of that workout? What am I good at, so that the thing that I can be, that I'm not so good at, that I can push myself harder on, because I know that I'm good at this. Now I have to strengthen this. All right. If you focus on the clock and you're always concerned about where you are versus somebody else, or versus the clock, you lose track of what do I need to get better. You mentioned this one time, and I thought that it was kind of profound. You said you have training sessions, you have competition sessions, and you have things that are open sessions,
Practice
sessions, right? So everything is not a competition. Every single workout you do shouldn't be open style. It shouldn't be, even a competition style. Sometimes it's just practice to get where your weaknesses become less than what they were before you start.
Sure.
And that is, it is a mind shift. It's a paradigm shift from anybody that's ever been competitive in anything. Like, because
It's not a football game.
it's not a football game. It's not a. It is, and a marathon is the best way that I know to describe it, because in a marathon, if you go out and run a 5-minute mile in that first mile, right? If that's your, my PR is not mine, but like a marathoner, his PR is a 5:05 mile, right? So he runs his first mile at 5:05. Do you know he's going to run his 26 mile in? About
A day.
11, 12. But if he runs a 6:03 that first mile and he maintains that for the entire race, it's better than running a 5-minute first mile and an 11 or 12-minute last mile.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from patience, quality of movement, and knowing your threshold. Because here's the, if you focus on the clock, you never go into, like today in 18-1, I went into the pain cave about the 7th round, right? And I was hurting, like, close to vomiting, that pain cave. But I had to turn that off. But if you don't ever put yourself in that, like, before you do it. Now every session isn't go into the pain cave and feel like you're gonna throw up, or you'll be done with this sport real soon.
Right.
But once every 2 weeks or whatever, you have to push yourself into that threshold and stay there. I had a very good friend that tells me that, why I'm not as good as I should be sometimes is because when I get to that pain cave, I'll back away. I've since I've been here, it's been something that I've worked on in training, because in training is where you get those skills. Like, once every couple weeks, I've had to go there and stay there for 4 minutes, because those last 4 minutes of that workout,
They look terrible. for you.
they felt terrible.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to say, okay, it's only 4 more minutes. You don't have to put down the dumbbell. Now I went to go swing on my first toaster bar,
Yeah, right.
and drop straight to the ground. So, but that to me is the difference in where I was 5 years ago or 4 years ago when we started,
Right.
to now is I don't always try to push to that pain cave. I get there sometimes and I try to stay there. Like, the assault bike is probably one of the best tools to go to a pain cave and try to maintain that. Like doing intervals on the assault bike.
Sure.
Because at some point during that, you're
You're just going to be like, oh my God.
Right. And that to me has made a huge difference in where my mind was as a younger athlete to now as an older athlete.
Right.
How long you can stay in that pain cave. And David does a great job of staying there.
And that also, he pushed, I've watched the evolution of our friend David, who used to get to the red line point, and completely everything would shut down.
Right.
And then slowly over time, he's grown it. A lot of it has to do with his ability to remain patient so all of this ties together, by the way.
Right.
Sorry, I'm pointing at this. He mostly competes against himself and the broader community at large. Like the qualifier type stuff, he's looking at how he stacks up to top
Athletes.
10, 25 athletes in his division worldwide.
Right.
But he's patient in his quality of movement.
Right.
He's got a high quality of movement.
He does.
And that allows him, as he develops skills, Brandon Phillips says, lift heavy, or breathe heavy, lift heavy, and develop skills. So he develops skills to the point that he doesn't even breathe heavy during those skills. Then when he gets on the rower, like an 18.1, he's going 1,400 calories an hour, which is, and he went unbroken.
He stayed there.
And he stayed there, and he went unbroken on all of his total bar.
Right.
That's how you get a 350 to 400 rep 18.1.
Right.
Is pushing the dial up on rowing.
Right.
Luckily, we've done a lot of that extra work, the extra conditioning, assault bike, rowing, running has brought us to the place where we are not scared. We were not scared of 18.1.
I was not scared of it.
But he's not focusing on the clock. He's focusing on bettering himself.
And then the clock takes care of itself.
The clock takes care of itself. I'd rather celebrate, instead of somebody winning the day,
Right.
I celebrate more the individual accomplishment of Corey Williams,
Right.
who went RX on 18.1.
Same
She's
with
been doing
Dallas.
CrossFit for a year. Dallas,
Right.
RX the workout.
Right.
She was over here in the corner on the shorty short bar,
Right.
and the dumbbell. When she picked it up, it looked like it was a baby rattle. not because it was light, but because that's how it was being wielded right here before she went overhead. But she stuck that 35-pound dumbbell over her head 10 times per round.
Right.
She did toe to bar, which she just got
Maybe 4 months ago, 3 months ago.
very, very recently.
She focused on quality of movement over cheating the system.
Over being
Fast.
fast.
Right.
Yeah. So we want to continue to work on skills, and I want to talk about just inserting one thing into how we should approach workouts. You brought it up a minute ago. There's about once or twice a week that I'm worried about what my time is or how many reps I got compared to somebody else,
Right.
or where I'm working on comparison. Now, having gone through 5 years or so of this type of training, I can look at it differently. But whenever we come up against something where there's toe to bar,
Right.
and it's one component of a 3-piece work, just this workout: rowing, toe to bar, and dumbbell hang clean and jerks.
Right.
I think that what I would rather see most of us doing is let's work on getting 2 or 3 toe to bar per round to develop that skill. Rowing is while it is a skill, it's not something that's difficult to do. You do it unbroken every time,
Right.
whatever it is in most
Right.
cases. And then just because the scaled weight calls for a 25-pound dumbbell or a 20-pound dumbbell and the RX weight calls for a 35-pound dumbbell, find something between the two that you're able to do so that you're pushing the needle from scaled to RX. It might not be the whole thing, but just like the open scores, the open will score 3 toe to bar,
Right.
and then like if you just did 3 toe to bar and somebody else did 20 minutes of knee raises and all that other stuff, you win.
You win.
Because you developed the skill.
Right.
It didn't work nearly as hard to do those 3 toe to bar.
No, you did.
Sydney did 3 toe to bar. Kristen Dykes did like 5 toe to bar, and then they did the rest of the workout as they were able to complete it quickly
Right.
or sustainably. But that's the design of what we want to do. Is there's a reason that toe to bar is a core workout, as more of a full body workout than just the sit up.
Right.
And there's a reason that it's harder. But forget where I was going with that. It's not unusual. But let's go into the last thing here. I guess my point there was that I'd rather somebody work on 2 or 3 reps per round that they can accomplish RX as they get a little better.
Right.
Turn it into a practice session a little better. A little better.
And you know, I'm fortunate enough to coach one day a week, and I have the same group of guys that come in like every time that 7 o'clock class. They're 7 o'clock regulars is what they are. They get me and Teresa.
Right.
They probably get the short end of the stick on the coaching cycle, but you know,
Not
like-
hardly.
but so I tell them if there's a chest to bar or a toe to bar, a gymnastic skill, a handstand push up, I want them to hold on to what the RX is for as long as they can, and then go to the scale. Like
Right.
if you can do 1 chest to bar each time, but then have to go to pull-ups for the rest, you're at least developing that skill of 1 chest to bar. Next time, I'm going to expect you to do 2 or 3.
You might get 10 reps better this time because of quality of work.
Right, quality of movement.
And when you lose it,
Right.
don't fight for it.
Don't fight for it. Don't continue to do that. Go to a pull up that you know that you can do. Like, but you got 5 or 10 chest to bar that you didn't get last week.
Right.
You know, and that to me makes a well-rounded athlete, and that's
Sure.
what we're trying to do. Is I tell Teresa all the time, I don't want to be a super, like I'm pretty good at chest to bar pull-ups. That's probably one of
my
better movements, right? But that's not the only thing I want to be good at.
Right.
I want to be well-rounded. And Joe Baker, you know, we go back.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
He is well-rounded.
You know who's going to be really upset with us continuously mentioning Joe Baker?
Who's that?
David Johnson.
but you know,
David, you're much better looking.
Absolutely, your beard is phenomenal. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that out there. So, but Joe and David are very similar in. David's very strong. Like that's one of his. But when a workout comes up and there are certain movements in there, I don't think that Joe or David, either one, gets really intimidated by what the movement is. They may get the time domain may bother them.
Sure.
You know,
Neither of them want to do a 20-minute workout,
neither-
really.
Right. But the movements, because they have focused on getting better at the movements, they don't fear what the movement is.
Sure.
And you know, sometimes, like for instance, thrusters and burpees over the bar, or you know.
You don't really love
No,
that. It's not your jam.
It's not my jam.
Right.
But I want to develop to be well-rounded. And I like one of my old weaknesses was box jumps. Like, but I've gotten where those don't bother me anymore because we focused on them so much.
Right.
But like, and that's how you get better at stuff.
And speaking of that, before we go on to the last point that I wrote down, that you shared is really, if you were going back and talking to people that were just starting, one of the things that I did when so I got hurt at Granite Games, which we haven't ever, I guess, people know about, but we haven't really ever debriefed Granite Games as an experience, and I'd like to get David in here and do that with the three of us. What I think is maybe one of the more powerful opportunities that everybody has is that when I got back to training, I just was like, man, I don't want to do any burpees. And then I was like, well, crap, I'm going to eventually have to do burpees. And I know burpees at some point will probably come into the open, and that burpees are going to be in all these competitions that we might want to do. However, I decided when I got back to working out again, I said, I'm just going to like burpees. I just decided I like burpees. It is that easy, by the way, that you can decide today that you like JT Yesterday's next door. You can decide that you like Japanese food suddenly. You can decide that you like a human being.
Absolutely.
You decide that you like somebody. And then when your brain is not closed off with negativity to a movement, a workout, anything in life. This is one of those things that transcends fitness. It goes beyond that. It goes into everything else. You can just decide that you like something. You can decide that you like drinking water today. I know Jessica Spurl is one of my favorite people. She's not at the gym right now, but Jessica said, I hate drinking water. Give me Mountain Dew and I'll drink it all day. But she's like, I hate drinking water. Jess, even you can decide that you like water. Because this is water cut with one of my favorite drinks. I'd like to have a podcast that was sponsored by this delicious drink made of passion fruit that I won't say its name until they're sponsoring me. But it comes from somewhere between here and Myrtle Beach. For all you Salt Games people from the Salt Games trip, you know what I'm talking about. But it's
delicious.
It's delicious.
It's delicious.
So you can change your mind. You can decide you like a movement.
Right.
So that is like when you're not intimidated by a movement, you can decide, hey, I like handstand push-ups, or I like bear crawls, or I like kettlebell swings. Just change your mind about the things that you don't like and like them.
Right.
So the last thing, because this is officially the first and longest podcast that we've had.
Right. And this goes back to, and you and I guess because of our age and kind of backgrounds, can relate to this probably more than anything else. Like, baseball is a game that teaches you more about how to overcome adversity probably than any other thing in life. And what you learn in baseball is failure is not your enemy. All right? The greatest baseball players in history, and I tell my kids this all the time. My boys, they play sports and they get frustrated when they get out. And I'm like, listen, the greatest ever, your Babe Ruth's, your Ted Williams, your
Joe DiMaggio,
yes, all of the greatest players ever, they failed 70% of the time, and they are in the Hall of Fame.
If you have a 300 batting average, which means that you got a base hit 3 out of every 10 official at bats you had,
You're in the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. And you failed 70% of the time. Which means that you sucked more than you were good.
Way more.
And you made it to the Hall of Fame. So failure is not an enemy of growth. Like when your muscles fail, what's going to happen? They're going to grow. Like that is anatomy. That is what happens in your body when you push your muscles to failure. Like the next time, they are going to be strengthened in order to, when you get to that point again of failure, they're going to have more in them because they experience failure. It's not an enemy of muscle growth. It's not an enemy in exercise. Like when you go to the dark place, we all talk about that pain cave. When you fail at something, like when we went to the Granite Games, there were certain, things that we failed at either individually or as a group. I failed on the swim. Justin got hurt in the front squat thing.
Oh, I didn't. I stalled the entire team out in legless rope climbs. Now, 230-pound dude doing legless rope climbs is a whole nother. I mean, that's the fact that I look at it and say I knew that would be a challenge.
Right.
But that didn't stop us from going.
Right.
And that didn't stop us from, even with that, we were top 10 until I got hurt.
Right, until you got hurt. And so the thing about it is failure, a lot of times when you're new and you're struggling, if I would have let my failure as the double under doofus, I would have missed out on an opportunity to go to Minnesota.
Sure.
and do the things that I've done that the sport's been good to me and allowed me to do, because I failed at one movement. There were lots of things that I failed at, but your mindset has to be, that's not my enemy. I'm growing every time to get closer to what my goal is. Everybody's goals aren't going to be a individual or team competitor. Your goal may be to lose 30 pounds. Your goal may be to look good naked. I don't know. But if whatever your goal is, if you focus on failure shaping how you approach the next thing, all right, so I failed today. I didn't, RX the workout, or I didn't finish. I got a DNF because, my shoulder went to crap.
Sure.
Whatever. That mindset has to be, okay, I failed today. What can I do tomorrow to not fail? I may fail tomorrow, but what am I going to do the next day so that those 2 days aren't what defines me? Failure never defines people.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
We see, I have, I got a message from a friend last night that said, I haven't been myself. I'm a little depressed. And I was like, why? You want to talk about what's going on? And they said, no, I'll be fine. But really what it is that there's some failures along the way, little tiny bitty failures,
Right.
that are in her professional world, that are prohibiting her from experiencing joy.
Right.
And I think going back to what I said about burpees is that I have a choice.
Right.
You have a choice. Everybody has a choice. You can choose today how you will perceive or how you will handle or experience failure tomorrow.
Right.
And just make it a thing in your brain that says, Good. Guess what? I found that this is where I was. Now I'm here and I failed. Why would I be upset if I came from here and now I'm here and that's my threshold? Because tomorrow's threshold can be here. You can do the exact same workout. It can workout, performance at work,
Right.
a
personal life.
personal life. Hey, you know what? So this is gonna sound crazy, y'all. This is how much of a waste of a husband I am. I'm proud of myself when Elise doesn't ask me, and I do the dishes and the laundry.
Right.
Now I'm never gonna. I just tell you, I'm never gonna clean off the counter. Not one time ever in my life. But you know what?
We talk about
I make
strengths
the
and
bed.
weaknesses.
Yeah, we're talking about strengths and weaknesses, right? But when I do something or when I cook a couple of times a week, I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. I'm glad I did that.
Right.
And not only, as opposed to looking at the times that I didn't do it,
Look at your successes.
look at the success and say, there's a big gap from where I was when I got drunk and I fell asleep. I fell asleep on my buddy's apartment. Welcome, Matt. He didn't know I was there until he stepped over me in the morning to go to work 15 years ago to now I wake up 3 times a week at 5 a.m. and go help my buddy achieve, I help my friend accomplish his goals.
Right.
We focus on failure when we focus on failure most, in my opinion, when the world revolves around me.
Right.
And so when I can become others focused, I got news for you. This particular enterprise that I'm in right now, Greenbrier Fitness, CrossFit Grow, Stars and Bars, would be really, really hard to justify if all I did was think about myself. If I was self-absorbed, and by the way, I'm a little self-absorbed, but mostly others-focused lifestyle will bring me more joy than a me-centered focus.
And you know,
And
that's one of your strengths. Like you took that little personality test, and boy, it couldn't have nailed you.
Sure.
I mean, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But you do care about others' fitness, others' goals, others' strengths. That's kind of one of the things that makes you a good CrossFit gym owner. Like, because that
it aligns well with my personality.
right with your personality.
And by the way, it was not always so.
Right.
This was the evolution of if I allowed my 15, 20 year ago self to determine my happiness today, I would not be a very happy camper.
It would be a flat.
I'd be a flat line or a down line.
Right.
I know there's an incredibly fit individual that I know.
No, thanks. wait, not me.
One that is very, very unhappy because he's so himself focused. I mean, and I'm talking about from the time that I met the guy to where he is now, both literally, geographically, physically. He's still a physical freak. But, I mean, the guy is so hurting as a person because his world is the more about us we become too, the smaller our world becomes. So to land on the final thing that Jamie was talking about is failure is not your enemy. Failure can be your friend, but it's all about how we frame the photo. The picture of the man laying on the ground in his sweat can be a representation of failure, or it can be a representation of the successes that have been achieved up to this point. You don't have to be, the growth. You don't have to be happy with your 18-1 score, but you can look at it and say, you know what? Hey, I did 18 like mine. My first attempt was not stellar, but I got to the end of it and I was like, I think I could do that again right now. Like, so by the way, I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and because I've seen what's possible, and I totally screwed up the row.
Yeah, me too, but I'm not doing it again because I'm old.
And it's a respectable score. But hey, guys, thank you for your time and for your patience and getting all the way through this. I doubt anybody spent 45 minutes listening to Jamie and I ramble on. But for those of you who did, thank you for letting us talk about y'all, because y'all's stories make this stuff more relevant. And shoot me a message and let me know what you would like to hear us talk about in the next couple of sessions. It might not always be Jamie. Teresa is already bugging me about the fact that it wasn't her that was in here. So we'll
She's
get
jelly.
she's a little jelly. We'll get her in here. I'll get the David in here as well. We'll try to figure out how to turn this thing around so that
That's not.
patience, you can read it, and B, it won't be backwards.
It won't be backwards.
So
Well,
thanks, guys, and we love you. Thanks again, Jamie.
Thanks, everybody. Yep.
All right.
See you.
I need an editor.